The learning objectives are as follows. So at the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify the following. So anatomy of the thorax and lungs. Examination techniques such as inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. The symptoms related as well as the associated diseases with their corresponding findings. So at the end of this lecture, you should be able to demonstrate skill in performing a complete physical examination, identify the physical findings, record the findings in a standard format, analyze and correlate history with your physical exam findings. So the contents are, so first we will review the anatomic structures, the subjective data to be able to arrive at your differential diagnosis. So the most common symptom are chest pain, dyspnea, cough, and hemoptysis. For the objective data, we will discuss inspection, palpation, percussion, and auscultation. So let's first discuss the anatomic structures. So actually, this is just a review of your anatomy. So the thoracic cage cavity is a bony conical shape, which is narrower at the top borders, and it is defined by the sternum, okay, which is divided into three parts, the manubrium, the body, and the xiphoid process. Okay. Ribs, you have 12 pairs. The first 7 are attached to the sternum, whereas ribs 8, 9, and 10 are attached to the costal cartilage above. And your ribs 11 and 12 are your floating ribs. You have 12 thoracic vertebra, and the diaphragm is the floor, which separates the thoracic cavity from the abdomen. You have the suprasternal notch. This is a U-shaped depression. All right. Your sternum has 3 parts, the manubrium, body, and xiphoid process. You have the angle of Louis, which is the manubriosternal angle that is continuous with the second rib. So this one is your angle of Louis. And the costal angle, that is usually 90 degrees or less, and usually increases when rib cage is chronically overinflated. So this is common among cases with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or emphysema, where the rib cage is hyperinflated. All right. So again, a closer look of the suprasternal notch, your sternum, 12 pairs of ribs, okay, your costal angle, and your diaphragm. So for the posterior thoracic landmarks, you have the vertebra prominence. Okay, you ask the patient to flex the head and feel for the most prominent bony projection at the base of the neck. That's C7 or vertebra prominence, right? This one. And then you have spinous processes, the scapula on either side, and your 12th rib, okay, so which is the lowest, midway between the spine and side. You also have reference lines. So for the reference lines, you have anterior, posterior, and lateral reference lines. So for anterior chest, you have mid-sternal and mid-clavicular. For the posterior chest, you have the vertebral line in the middle and the scapular line. For the lateral chest, you have anterior axillary, the mid-axillary, and the posterior axillary line. All right. Next would be the thoracic cavity. Okay. The mediastinum is the middle of the thoracic cavity, which contains the following structure. So you have the esophagus behind, the trachea, your heart, and your great vessels. The pleural cavities lie on either side of the mediastinum. Okay, so pleural cavities. And you have your right and left lung. So your left lung has 2 lobes, whereas your right lung has 3 lobes. For the lung borders, you have anterior, lateral, and posterior chest borders. So anteriorly, the apex of the lungs is 3 to 4 centimeters above the inner one-third of the clavicles, and its base rests on the diaphragm, which is approximately 6th rib of your mid-clavicular line. So it's 1/3, okay, and the base anteriorly is on the 6th rib. All right. For the lateral borders, it extends from the axilla, so that's the apex, to 7th to 8th rib. So axilla, so that's the apex, and base is at the 7th to 8th rib. Posteriorly, the apex of the lung is at C7, and the base is at T10, but on deep inspiration, it can go as low as T12. So C7 is the apex, and base is T10. All right. For the pulmonary symptoms, there are a constellation of symptoms pertaining to the respiratory system. So the most common would be chest pain. Okay. If the chest pain comes from your respiratory system, one of the common diseases that we can attribute is the tracheobronchitis. Okay. The process of which is when there is inflammation of trachea and large bronchi. And usually it is located in the upper sternal or on either side of the sternum. So the quality would be burning, mild to moderate chest pain that is variable. And the most common factors that aggravate this kind of chest pain is coughing. And factors that relieve is usually when the patient lies on the involved side. Common associated symptoms cough. So when a patient comes to your clinic complaining of burning, mild to moderate burning chest pain that is located in the upper sternal, aggravated by coughing, okay, and is usually associated with cough, then you will think of a tracheobronchitis. There are many sources of chest pain, okay, as well as the related causes. So one would be the most common of which is the myocardium. Okay, so you can have differential diagnosis such as angina pectoris, myocardial infarction, or heart attack in myocarditis. So once the pericardium is involved, you can have pericarditis. So patient may also complain of chest pain. For the aorta, a patient who has a dissecting aortic aneurysm may complain of chest pain. And for the respiratory system, okay, it may be because of a tracheobronchitis, okay, an inflammation coming from the trachea and the large bronchi. You can also have chest pain from the parietal pleura. So in cases of pneumonia, pleural effusion, pneumothorax, chest wall, okay, secondary from costochondritis, as well as a viral infection in the case of a herpes zoster. And of course, coming from the esophagus. So patients who have reflux disease, esophageal spasm, as well as tear. And patients can also complain of chest pain coming from the extrathoracic structures such as the neck, gallbladder, and the stomach. So patients who have cervical arthritis, biliary colic, as well as gastritis. Okay, so there are many causes of chest pain that one should be able to identify. Next symptom is pleuritic pain. So pleuritic pain is or may come from the inflammation of the parietal pleura, as in a case of pleurisy, pneumonia, pulmonary infarction, or a malignancy. Okay. Common location is the chest wall or at the back. All right. And the quality Okay, patients may complain of a sharp, knife-like pleuritic pain. Okay, that is persistent and often severe, okay, during episodes. Okay, and factors that aggravate are during inspiration, coughing, and with movements of the trunk. All right, so that's pleuritic pain. How about dyspnea or difficulty of breathing? So difficulty of breathing, okay, may be a symptom of many diseases. Okay? And one would be from the cardiovascular system. So the most common would be coming from a left-sided heart failure. So the process in heart failure is an elevation of the pressure in the pulmonary capillary bed. Okay? So in turn, there will be transudation of fluid into the interstitial spaces and the alveoli, okay? Decreasing the compliance, increasing the stiffness of the lungs because of increased fluid. Okay? Hence, as a result, there is an increased work of breathing. Okay? So timing, it may progress slowly or sudden. So it's variable. And factors that aggravate are during exertion and upon lying down. And factors that may relieve upon resting or upon sitting up. And associated symptoms, okay, so patients may complain of dry cough, orthopnea, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, and sometimes wheezing. Okay, in the setting of a patient with a history of heart disease or its predisposing factors, so that you will entertain left-sided heart failure, all right, in a patient complaining of difficulty of breathing, okay, in a setting of a history of heart disease. So difficulty of breathing that is slowly progressive, aggravated by exertion, and relieved by resting, associated with cough, orthopnea, paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, and sometimes with wheezing. Okay, so one of your differential diagnoses would be left-sided heart failure. How about difficulty of breathing in chronic bronchitis? So in chronic bronchitis, there is excessive mucus production in the bronchi, so in the airways, followed by chronic obstruction of airways. So this chronic productive cough is slowly followed by dyspnea over time. Okay, so factors that aggravate are exertion, inhaled irritant. So if you are exposed to an irritant, a history or current respiratory infection. So factors that relieve are rest and expectoration. So if a patient was able to cough out the phlegm, all right. The associated symptoms of dyspnea from chronic bronchitis are a chronic productive cough, of course, a recurrent respiratory infection, and sometimes wheezing, okay, because of the obstruction. So, of course, you will think of chronic bronchitis in a patient complaining of difficulty of breathing in the setting of a history of smoking, exposure to air pollutants, as well as a history of recurrent respiratory infections. So how about in chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or COPD? So dyspnea is a common symptom. So in COPD, there is overdistension of air spaces to terminal distal bronchioles with destruction of alveolar septa and chronic obstruction of airways. So there is a slowly progressive dyspnea among COPD patients with a mild cough, okay, that is usually aggravated by exertion and is relieved by rest. So associated symptoms again is cough with scant mucoid sputum. So of course you will entertain COPD in a patient complaining of dyspnea, okay, for those with history of smoking, exposure to air pollutants, and a familial deficiency in alpha antitrypsin deficiency. All right. Next would be bronchial asthma. Okay. In bronchial asthma, there is hyperresponsiveness, okay, involving the release of your inflammatory mediators, increased airway secretions, and bronchoconstriction. Right. So timing would be acute episodes. So there's an episodic symptom, okay, separated by symptom-free periods, okay, and nocturnal episodes are common. So factors that aggravate are allergen, so known allergen. So an asthmatic patient should be able to identify his or her allergen, all right, and be able to avoid it so as to prevent exacerbation or asthma attacks, all right. So the associated symptoms from a bronchial asthma attack are the following. So wheezing, cough, and tightness in chest or difficulty in breathing. So in a setting of environmental and emotional conditions. So common triggers would be your house dust mite, pollens, smell of your perfume, chemicals, emotional conditions. So stress can trigger asthma. Laughter, extreme laugh can trigger asthma. All right. Next would be diffuse interstitial lung diseases. So there is abnormal and widespread infiltration of cells, fluid, and collagen into the interstitial space. So in this disease, the lung parenchyma is affected. Okay? The timing would be a progressive difficulty of breathing or progressive dyspnea over time. Okay? So factors that aggravate upon exertion and factors that relieve upon resting. So associated symptoms are weakness, fatigue, and cough, but it is less common. So pneumonia. So one of the most common diseases that we encounter in the clinic. Okay, there is inflammation of lung parenchyma from the respiratory bronchioles to the alveoli. Okay, so inflammation. So timing would be an acute illness. Okay. And associated symptoms, aside from dyspnea, are pleuritic pain, cough, sputum, and fever. Okay, because this one is an inflammatory symptom, right? So fever. Next would be spontaneous pneumothorax. So in spontaneous pneumothorax, there is leakage of air into the pleural space, okay, through ruptured blebs on the visceral pleura. Okay, this results to partial or complete collapse of the lung. Right. So timing would be a sudden onset of dyspnea. So associated symptoms, pleuritic pain and dry cough in a setting of a previously healthy adult. So a sudden complaint of difficulty of breathing in a 20-year-old male. Okay, then you can entertain spontaneous pneumothorax. How about acute pulmonary embolism? So in pulmonary embolism, there is sudden occlusion of all or part of the pulmonary artery tree by a blood clot, all right, that usually originates in the deep veins of legs or pelvis. Okay. Again, there is sudden onset of dyspnea. But in contrast to the spontaneous pneumothorax, in acute pulmonary embolism, the setting would be in postpartum or post-operative periods, okay, patients who are on prolonged bed rest, chronically bedridden patients, patients who have congestive heart failure and chronic lung diseases, those who have fractured of hips or leg, and those who have deep venous thrombosis. So you entertain acute pulmonary embolism, okay, among these cases who had a sudden onset of dyspnea. All right. Next would be anxiety with hyperventilation, which is the most common wastebasket diagnosis in the emergency room. Okay, there is overbreathing with resultant respiratory alkalosis and a fall in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood. The timing is episodic, okay, and often recurrent. And factors that aggravate, so most often occur at rest than after exercise. And the anxiety may be relieved by breathing in and out of a paper or plastic bag, okay, which can help the associated symptoms. So associated symptoms are sighing, lightheadedness, numbness or tingling of the hands and feet, palpitations, and chest pain. So other manifestation of anxiety may be present. Next symptoms are cough and hemoptysis. So for cough and hemoptysis, you have acute causes of inflammation and chronic inflammation. All right. For acute inflammation, you have laryngitis, tracheobronchitis, mycoplasma, and viral pneumonia and bacterial pneumonia. So for laryngitis, the patient may present with hoarseness that may be associated with viral nasopharyngitis. For tracheobronchitis, the viral illness is associated with burning retrosternal discomfort. And as for infection of the lung parenchyma, as in the case of pneumonia, okay, there's an associated chills and high fever. Right. For chronic inflammation, first would be the post-nasal drip. So there is repeated attempts to clear the throat, such as in cases of allergic rhinitis. In chronic bronchitis, there is chronic cough, okay, with history of smoking, wheezing, and difficulty of breathing. In bronchiectasis, okay, the chronic cough is associated with a foul-smelling purulent sputum and sometimes with blood, okay, in the setting of a recurrent bronchopulmonary infection. And pulmonary tuberculosis, that is commonly presented with dry cough or mucoid sputum, okay, with or without blood streak, associated with fever, night sweats, weight loss, fatigue, and anorexia. Next would be lung abscess. So there is a characteristically foul-smelling sputum, okay, that is purulent. Okay, and there's associated febrile illness. For asthma, there is cough, okay, with thick mucoid sputum that is associated with episodes of wheezing and difficulty of breathing, and a history of allergy. Gastroesophageal reflux is also associated with chronic cough, okay, especially at night or early in the morning. Okay, so the most common associated symptoms are wheezing at night, early morning hoarseness, okay, because of the acid, and there is repeated attempts to clear the throat. So in a history of heartburn and regurgitation. Neoplasm of the lung may also present with cough and hemoptysis. Okay. And other symptoms, okay, that you can ask from the patient are history of smoking, difficulty of breathing, and an unintentional weight loss. Heart failure also can give or may present with dry cough, associated with orthopnea and paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea. Also, we've discussed pulmonary embolism that may accompany dry to productive cough, okay, with hemoptysis. Okay, there is difficulty of breathing, anxiety, chest pain, fever factor leading to deep vein thrombosis. Okay. And of course, irritating particles or chemicals or gases. So if you have an occupational or environmental exposure to this, so it may be variable. there may be a latency or latent period between exposure and symptoms. Okay, so upon exposure to irritants, so the symptoms may come out. So nose, eyes, and throat symptoms may be demonstrated. All right. The second part of our discussion under the chest and thorax are the objective findings. So let's first discuss inspection. Inspection is
So parang play ng lecture and then run down ulit so that kung may na-miss out na information, at least I can share it, no? Tapos later, we will play na yung part 2. At any time, you can interrupt me, ha? So at the end of this lecture, the learner should be able to identify. So basically, review lang yung anatomy of the thorax and the lungs. Identify the examination techniques, the symptoms related, as well as the different respiratory diseases. Yung mga most common lang, of course, ang i-discuss at your level. All right. So anatomic structures, subjective data. When you say subjective data, di ba yung mga complaint ng patient? Whereas pag objective data naman, objective meaning kung ano yung pwedeng i-confirm or gawin ng physician. Okay? So, again, we review the anatomy. So, the shape is bony, conical in shape. So, you have the sternum, the ribs, 12 thoracic vertebra, and the diaphragm, which is the floor of the abdomen. Also, for the anterior thoracic landmarks, you have the suprasternal notch and the sternum. So, here is an image, no? So, you see the suprasternal notch, the manubrosternal angle. So that's the angle of Louis. Posterior thoracic landmarks, you have the vertebra prominence. So that's C7, the spinous processes, the scapula on both sides, and the 12th rib. So which is the lowest reference sa posterior. Reference lines. So why do we use reference lines? Imaginary lines to eh. This is to easily locate organs o kaya kung may abnormality, mas madali siyang malocate. So anteriorly, you use the mid-sternal and the mid-clavicular. Diba? We use that to locate the apex beat. Posteriorly, you have the vertebral line and the scapular line. And laterally, you have the anterior, posterior, and mid-axillary. So usually, we identify these lines or we use these reference lines. Halimbawa, kung merong mga mass, di ba? May mga bukol na nakita, may mga lesions, o kaya may mga lymph nodes, lymphadenopathies. Okay. Thoracic cavity. So mediastinum is middle of the thoracic cavity, which contains the esophagus, the trachea, the heart, and the great vessels. Okay, so ito yun, nasa middle, no? As you can see, it is a large potential space. When you say it's a large potential space, malaki. So that the mass, kung meron ng bukol dyan, so kung may bukol man dyan, it should be big enough to compress the structure. Otherwise, kung very small, pwedeng wala talagang, walang symptoms na maramdaman yung patient. Also, you have the pleural cavities, which lies on both sides. Now, and this contains the lungs. So for the lungs, you have sa right lung, you have 3 lobes. Sa left, you have 2 lobes. Lung borders. So why do we have to know yung lung borders? Of course, para ma-identify natin kung may abnormality, no? Usually, it's a mirror image right and left. So kung magko-compare tayo and magkaiba yung findings, then we know na may abnormality sa side na to. Okay, so let's check the border. So anterior chest, lateral, and posterior. So anteriorly, so you see, you can still auscultate sa upper clavicle kasi may apex pa doon. So that you know na pag nag-auscultate ka, vesicular prime breath sounds na ma-appreciate mo dyan. Okay? So posteriorly naman, as high as what? C7, level of C7. And below, it's T10 pa. And on deep inspiration, it can go as low as T12. Nakuha? And then laterally, sa axilla, no? Sa kilikili mismo, you can still auscultate part of the lungs. Okay. So, pulmonary symptoms. What are the most common pulmonary symptoms? Chest pain is one, no? So, there are many diseases pertaining or where which we can attribute chest pain. So, sa respiratory disease or sa chest, we have tracheobronchitis. So, this happens when there is inflammation of the trachea and the large bronchi. So usually, ang location is upper sternal kasi sternum. Okay? And the character of the pain is usually burning, pero mild to moderate lang. Hindi siya severe, no? So parang constant siya na nandoon. And factors that aggravate is coughing. So pag persistent ang coughing, sumasakit talaga. Okay? So usually, it is associated with cough. So these are other sources of chest pain. So usually kasi we attribute chest pain kapag parang sakit sa puso na, no? Pero there are many other kumbaga manifestations, no, for chest pain. So myocardium is the most common kung may heart attack. So that's myocardial infarction. Kung may myocarditis or pericarditis. So for aorta naman, if there is a dissecting aneurysm. And the one we mentioned earlier is the tracheobronchitis. And many others. So even chest wall lang, no, may problem ka with your bones and cartilages or the ribs. So kung may costochondritis yung patient, pwedeng mag-complain ng chest pain. As well as esophageal problems such as reflux and other extrathoracic structures. So you see, very important ang history taking. Okay, so, kasi you have to describe, di ba, as to pick your RSTU, ang isang symptom. Especially kapag pain ang presentation. So, very important, no? Hindi porke chest pain, MI na agad. So, you should think or you should analyze the case depende sa presentation ng patient. So, one symptom is pleuritic pain. So, pleuritic meaning there is an inflammation of the parietal pleura, as in pleurisy, pneumonia, pulmonary infarction, or neoplasm. So, usually, pleura, di ba, nakita natin sa anatomy kanina, nasa chest wall. Okay? Kasi nasa covering siya ng lungs eh. And usually, yung pain na to is sharp or knife-like, masakit, no? Parang ano bang tawag doon? Bigla-bigla na lang. That is often severe and persistent. And usually, it is aggravated kapag hihinga ng malalim on deep inspiration. That's why yung mga patients na may pleuritic pain, ginagard nila yung breathing. Parang very shallow lang yung breathing nila. And of course, coughing and movement of the tongues, no, can precipitate the pain. Another symptom is difficulty of breathing or dyspnea or shortness of breath. So one common disease that would present with dyspnea is left-sided heart failure. So why? Because there is transudation of fluid into the interstitial spaces and the alveoli. So in short, parang fluid-filled yung alveoli instead of air-filled, no? So, ang tendency niyan, there will be an increased work of breathing. Hirap huminga yung lungs natin. Okay? The timing may be progressively slow, or very sudden, depending on the situation. Okay? And usually, patients or the condition may be aggravated by exertion, kung nag-exert ng effort, no? Or with activity, or upon lying down. That's why usually mga patients na may heart failure, di ba? Nagko-complain hinihingal pag umaakit ng stairs o kaya naglalakad ng malayo. And usually, they are relieved by resting or sitting up. So, naka-sitting up position. And common na during sleeping, they use a 2-pillow or 3-pillow. Okay? So that's 3-pillow orthopnea. So para ma-relieve sila of the difficulty of breathing. Tendency kasi parang nalulunod sila kapag naka-supine position. Of course, you will only entertain this in a patient na nagko-complain ng difficulty of breathing kapag may setting ng heart disease. So based on your history taking, meron pala siyang heart enlargement, meron pa talagang ischemic heart disease o known case na ng heart failure, then you can entertain left-sided heart failure. So, nakuha? Okay. Okay, next naman, we have chronic bronchitis. So, with chronic bronchitis, yung pathology here would be there's an excessive mucus production in the bronchi. So, imagine your airways, no? Dapat yan maluwag, no? Para makadaan ng hangin in and out. But imagine it na filled with phlegma or mucus, no? Then, this will obstruct your airways. So, hirap nga yung huminga ang patient. There is difficulty of breathing. So, usually, it is slowly progressive difficulty of breathing, aggravated by exertion, okay? Or if there's a concomitant respiratory infection. And usually, it is relieved by resting and expectoration of the phlegm. Kung nailabas mo na, so mawawala yung obstruction. Okay? Pero chronically kasi nagpo-produce ng phlegma. Alright? So in the history of smoker ang patient mo o kaya chronically exposed to air pollutants. Okay? So sino-sino yung mga chronically exposed to air pollutants? Jeepney drivers, 'di ba? Ano pa? Mga traffic enforcers, yan, mga tindera, no? So, o kaya if your house is along the highway, no? So, chronically exposed sa air pollutants. COPD, so chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or emphysema. Here, there is overdistension of air spaces to terminal distal bronchioles with resultant destruction of alveolar septa. Okay, and chronic obstruction of airways. So usually, slowly progressive yung nature ng dyspnea niya. Okay? And then, And it is usually aggravated by exertion and relieved by rest. So again, in the history of naninigarilyo yung patient. O kaya, ang occupation niya, laging may exposure to air pollutants. Among women, meron din cases ng COPD. Sila yung usually mga housewives na nagsisiga, nagluluto using the no? Nagsisiga ng kahoy. So, chronically exposed sila kasi more than 3 times a day sila magluluto eh. No? Bronchial asthma. So, in bronchial asthma, it may also present with difficulty of breathing. But the pathology here is reversible, no? Because in asthma, there is bronchospasm or bronchoconstriction. And it is usually, or it usually happens episodic. So, episodic yung mga attacks and aggravated by exposure to allergen. Okay, so what are the common associated symptoms? Wheezing, cough, and chest tightness. So usually, patients will go to your clinic. Nahirapan po akong huminga, Dok. Parang ang sikip-sikip ng dibdib ko. Kasi nag-i-spasm yung bronchus, no? Okay. So, in the setting of exposure to your triggers, your known allergen. So, based on your history taking, asthmatic yung patient, nagpunta sa clinic mo, nahihirapang huminga, so you entertain an asthma attack. Sige. I'll just continue this, no? Medyo maingay kasi dito. So, I'll play na lang muna yung part 2. So, we stop sa diffuse interstitial disease.
Taking note of any deformities or asymmetry in the chest expansion, observing abnormal retraction of the interspaces during inspiration, and identifying impairment of respiratory movement on one or both sides of the chest. So a normal chest, okay, so the thorax is wider than its depth and the lateral diameter is larger than its anteroposterior diameter. Whereas a barrel chest is where there is an increased anteroposterior diameter. The shape is normal during infancy, okay? Aging, and pathologic in COPD patients. So chronic obstructive pulmonary disease patient demonstrate a barrel chest. Okay. In traumatic flail chest, okay, multiple rib fractures may result in a paradoxical movements of the thorax. So as there is descent of the diaphragm, so it decreases intrathoracic pressure. So inspiration, okay, the injured area caves inward, okay, so which is the opposite during inspiration. And on expiration, the injured area moves outward. Okay. So what is a funnel chest? It is pectus excavatum. So there is a depression in the lower portion of the sternum. Okay. So in effect, the heart and the great vessels are compressed. A pigeon chest is pectus carinatum. So the sternum is displaced anteriorly, increasing the anteroposterior diameter. So the costal cartilages adjacent to the protruding sternum are depressed. Thoracic kyphoscoliosis happens when there is an abnormal spinal curvature and vertebral rotation. So this deforms the chest, okay? And distortion of the underlying lungs may make interpretation of lung findings very difficult. So what is a normal respiratory rate? So the respiratory rate is about 14 to 20 per minute in normal adults. In infants, it's up to 44 cycles per minute. So now we're going to define different terms, okay, in respiration. So tachypnea is a rapid, shallow breathing. So the most common diseases that will cause tachypnea are restrictive lung disease, pleuritic chest pain, and an elevated diaphragm. How about hyperpnea? So it is defined as a rapid and deep breathing, so also called hyperventilation. So the most common causes of hyperpnea are exercise, so that's physiologic, pathologic or anxiety, and metabolic acidosis. In the comatose patient, where there is infarction, hypoxia, or hypoglycemia affecting the midbrain or pons, this may demonstrate hyperpnea. All right. Because small breathing is deep breathing that is due to a metabolic acidosis. It may be fast, normal rate, or slow. Bradypnea is a slow breathing. So the most common diseases that can cause bradypnea are diabetic coma, drug-induced respiratory depression, and increased intracranial pressure. So drug-induced, what is the most common drug that can cause respiratory depression? So the one that is often used by cancer patients. So it's morphine, okay? And any condition that increases your intracranial pressure, the most common are any diseases that's space occupying. Okay, so space occupying in the brain. So it may be a brain mass, brain tumor, what else? Infection, all right. Hines-Stokes breathing is defined as periods of deep breathing alternating with periods of apnea or no breathing. So, among children and aging people, normally this may show in their sleep, okay, this pattern in their sleep. But other pathologic causes are heart failure among uremic patients, among patients with drug-induced respiratory depression, and those who have brain damage. Ataxic breathing, so by the term ataxia. Okay. Another term for this is bias breathing. So ataxic breathing is characterized by unpredictable irregularity. So breaths may be shallow or deep and stop for short periods. So causes are respiratory depression and brain damage. That is typically on a higher level, so at the medullary level. Sighing respiration. So breathing punctuated by frequent sighs should alert you to the possibility of hyperventilation. It can be a syndrome, a common cause of dyspnea and dizziness. However, occasional sighs are normal. Obstructive breathing. So this is common among obstructive lung diseases. So in obstructive lung disease, such as asthma, chronic bronchitis, COPD, or emphysema, expiration is prolonged because of the narrowed airways, thereby increasing the resistance to airflow. Okay, hence the obstruction. Next examination technique is palpation. So it identifies tender areas. So assess any visible abnormalities. Okay. Test chest expansion or confirm chest expansion and feel for tactile fremitus. Okay, so here's how we conduct chest expansion in a patient. So anteriorly and posteriorly, you ask the patient to take a deep breath. So inhale and exhale and observe for any signs of lagging. Tactile fremitus, okay, you ask the patient to say words, okay, and feel for the vibrations. Okay. So in this technique, okay, in this image, okay, you do the inching technique. So 1, 1, 2, 2. This is to compare both sides right away. So immediately you can compare if there's abnormality on one side. Same with the posterior. So posterior or at the back. Okay, 1, 1, 2, 2. By doing the inching technique, you can compare one from the other. All right. Also, you can perform the procedure using a two-hand technique. Okay, this one is single-handed technique. So next examination technique is percussion. So percussion sets the chest wall and underlying tissues in motion, so producing audible sound and palpable vibration. This helps to establish underlying tissues, whether be it air-filled, fluid-filled, or solid. So here are the common percussion notes. So flat if it's on a solid matter, so thigh. Okay, dull if it's a liver, cardiac, all right? So dull on percussion. Resonance is a percussion finding in a healthy lung. Normally, hyperresonance should not be appreciated, okay, in a normal lung. Okay? And tympani, okay, is a gastric air bubble or puffed out cheek, okay, usually performed in the abdomen. So looking at this image, as you can see, there is flat or flatness over the muscle and bone. Okay, resonance, because here you have the apex, all right? So resonance all over lung fields. There is cardiac dullness appreciated as well as liver dullness and stomach tympani. Posteriorly, you can appreciate resonance, okay, flatness over the scapula and liver and visceral dullness. Next would be auscultation. It is used for assessing airflow through the tracheobronchial tree. So it involves listening to the sounds generated by breathing, listening for any adventitious sounds, and if abnormalities are suspected, listening to the sounds of the patient's spoken or whispered voice. So this is how you do your auscultation procedure. So again, we use the inching technique. So 1-1, comparing both sides right away, 2-2-3-3-4-4. Same at the back, all right? So back in the introduction to physical diagnosis or in IPD, you are taught regarding the different breath sounds. So we have vesicular, bronchovesicular, bronchial, and tracheal breath sounds. So vesicular, you can hear that over most of both lungs. So for bronchovesicular, you often hear it in the first and second interspaces anteriorly and between the scapula. And from bronchial or tracheal, okay, you can hear that over the manubrium and over the trachea in the neck. Okay, so here, looking at this image, you can appreciate bronchial or tracheal breath sounds, bronchovesicular breath sounds, and vesicular breath sounds in these areas. Posteriorly, you can appreciate bronchovesicular breath sounds and vesicular breath sounds. We also have the adventitious or added breath sounds. Okay. Here we compare discontinuous and continuous you can appreciate bronchovesicular breath sounds and vesicular breath sounds. We also have the adventitious or added breath sounds. Okay. Here we compare discontinuous or intermittent, non-musical, and brief sounds like dots in time, and the difference between fine and coarse. So in fine, we have soft, high pitch, and very brief. Okay, whereas in coarse, the sound is somewhat louder and lower in pitch and brief, but longer than fine crackles. For wheezes and bronchi, these are continuous, musical, prolonged added breath sounds like dashes in time. Okay, and wheezes are defined as relatively high pitch with hissing or shrill quality, while bronchi are defined as relatively low pitch with snoring quality. All right. So there are different adventitious lung sounds, okay, which may manifest into different diseases. Okay, so by different diseases. So late inspiratory crackles of ILD and congestive heart failure. So result from a series of tiny explosions when small airways deflated during expiration. Okay, they pop open during inspiration. So hence the late inspiratory crackles. So whereas hoarse crackles result from air bubbles flowing through secretions of lightly closed airways during respiration. So here is a picture or image of the different adventitious lung sounds. So here you have the late inspiratory crackles, the early inspiratory crackles, a mid-inspiratory and early expiratory crackles, all of which we will discuss later. Okay, so wheezes and bronchi. So as defined, it is a continuous sound. Okay. Bronchi, continuous sound. Okay. And other adventitious lung sounds that we will discuss later are stridor and pleural rub. So for late inspiratory crackles, it may begin in the first half of inspiration, but must continue into late inspiration. So it may persist from breath to breath. Okay. And the most common disease that may create a late inspiratory crackles are ILD and CHF or heart failure. For early inspiratory crackles, they appear soon after the start of inspiration and do not continue into late inspiration. They are often but not always coarse and are relatively few in number. So the most common disease where we can find early inspiratory crackles are chronic bronchitis and asthma. So predominantly obstructive type of diseases. For mid-inspiratory and expiratory crackles, so wheezes and bronchi may be associated, and we can see this in patients with bronchiectasis. All right, so for discontinuous sounds, we have crackles or rals. So these are intermittent, non-musical, and brief, like dots in time. Okay, so as discussed earlier, we define fine crackles versus coarse crackles. So here's an image of a coarse crackle. Okay, contrast this one with an image of a fine crackle. For continuous sounds, again, these are notably longer than crackles like dashes in time and do not necessarily persist throughout the respiratory cycle. So they are musical. So example of which are wheezes and bronchi. So wheezes happen when the airflow rapidly through the bronchi that are narrowed nearly to the point of closure. So it is often audible at the mouth as well as through the chest wall. So the most common diseases are obstructive lung diseases, namely asthma, chronic bronchitis, and COPD. But you can also find this in congestive heart failure. Right, so in asthma, wheezes may be heard only in expiration or in both phases of the respiratory cycle. So rhonchi, this suggests secretions in the larger airways. So in chronic bronchitis, wheezes and rhonchi often clear with coughing. So occasionally in severe obstructive pulmonary disease, the patient is no longer able to force enough air through the narrowed bronchi to produce wheezing. So the resulting silent chest should raise immediate concern and not to be mistaken for improvement. All right. And a persistent finding of a localized wheeze, okay, may suggest a partial obstruction of a bronchus or by a tumor, okay, or foreign body. So it may be inspiratory, expiratory, or both. So localized wheeze. Stridor is another adventitious lung sound. It is a wheeze that is entirely or predominantly inspiratory, and it is often louder in the neck than over the chest wall. So when you hear a stridor, okay, it may indicate a partial obstruction of the larynx or trachea, and this one demands an immediate attention or a medical emergency. Right? So pleural rub happens when the inflamed and roughened pleural surfaces grate against each other as they are momentarily and repeatedly delayed by increased friction. So these movements produce creaking sounds known as a pleural rub or pleural friction rub. So pleural rub resembles crackles acoustically, although they are produced by different pathologic processes. Sounds may be discrete, okay, and usually confined to a relatively small area of the chest wall. And this sound can be heard in both phases of respiration. So when inflamed pleural surfaces are separated by fluid, the rub often disappears. Next would be mediastinal crunch. It is a series of precordial crackles that is synchronous with the heartbeat. Okay, and it is best heard in the left lateral position. And it is due to a mediastinal emphysema or pneumomediastinum. Now we go to the findings of a normally air-filled lung. So a normally air-filled lung is predominantly vesicular. Okay, so agree. Spoken words are muffled and indistinct. On spoken E, it should be heard as E. And whispered words are faint and indistinct if heard at all. So these are your findings of a normally air-filled lung. How about in a case of a lobar pneumonia? Okay, where there is a large collection of sputum, okay, or mucus or infection in a part of a lung. Okay. So what are your expected findings? Okay. So instead of a vesicular breath sounds, you now appreciate a bronchial or bronchovesicular sound over the involved area. On bronchophony, the spoken words are louder and clearer. On egophony, the spoken E is heard as A. And on whispered words, louder, clear, and clearer on whispered pectoriloquy. Okay. And upon conducting tactile or eliciting tactile fremitus, okay, there is an increased tactile fremitus. Okay. So here are your findings in an airless lung, as in the case of a lobar pneumonia or lobar consolidation. So hence, your findings for voice sounds. So the normal voice transmission is soft, muffled, and indistinct. Okay. So pathology, so any pathology that increases the lung density can make the words clearer. So what are these type of pathology? So the common example would be pneumonia. So bronchophony, you instruct the patient to say 99. For egophony, you instruct the patient to say E. So if the C sounds like A, it's positive for consolidation. So whispered pectoriloquy. So these tests are only done if lung pathology is suspected. Here are the following chest and lung findings for the different diseases that we commonly encounter. Okay, so for the normal chest, so the tracheobronchial tree and alveoli are clear, pleura are thin and close together, and there is mobility of the chest wall. Okay, so percussion is resonant, trachea is at the midline, vesicular breath sounds, no adventitious sounds, and normal tactile fremitus. So for chronic bronchitis, where there is a chronically inflamed bronchi, okay, and the airways are obstructed, okay, you may find a scattered coarse crackles in early inspiration, okay, but the rest of the findings are normal. Since the pathology in chronic bronchitis are airways. In left-sided heart failure, where there is an increased pressure in the pulmonary veins causing congestion and interstitial edema, right, you may find late inspiratory crackles in the dependent portion of the lungs, so possibly wheezes. But the rest of the findings are normal. In consolidation pneumonia, as we've discussed earlier, the condition in which the alveoli are filled with fluid or blood cells, as in pneumonia, pulmonary edema, or pulmonary hemorrhage. Okay? Here you can appreciate dullness over the airless area, bronchial breath sounds over the involved area, possibly late inspiratory crackles over the involved area, and an increased tactile fremitus over the involved area. Next would be atelectasis. So the term atelectasis means collapse of lung. Okay, so lobar obstruction is the classic example. So when a plug in a main stem bronchus obstructs airflow, okay, the affected lung tissue collapses into an airless state. Okay, so percussion on that location is dull. The trachea may be shifted toward the involved side, so on the affected side. There is no breath sound or usually absent. Okay? And of course, there's no tactile fremitus or absent tactile fremitus. What about in pleural effusion? So in pleural effusion, there is fluid accumulation in the pleural space, separating air-filled lung from the chest wall and blocking the transmission of sound. So on percussion note, you may appreciate a dull to flat on percussion. Trachea may be shifted toward the opposite in a large effusion. So breath sounds decrease to absent breath sounds, and tactile fremitus may be decreased to absent also. All right, so that's pleural effusion. How about pneumothorax? So when air leaks into the pleural space, usually unilateral or one-sided, the lung recoils from the chest wall. So pleural air blocks transmission of the sound, just like in pleural effusion. So what's your expected findings? So percussion, it's hyperresonant or tympanitic over the pleural air. Okay. The trachea may be shifted toward the opposite side if there's much air. Okay, with decrease to absent breath sounds and tactile fremitus. So how about in COPD or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease? So in this disease, there is slowly progressive disorder in which the distal air spaces enlarge and lungs become hyperinflated, or there is air trapping inside. Okay, so on percussion, because of air trapping, there is diffusely hyperresonant okay, with decreased to absent breath sound and a decreased tactile fremitus. How about in asthma? So in asthma, okay, there is widespread narrowing of the tracheobronchial tree, okay, thereby diminishing airflow to a fluctuating degree. So during attacks, airflow decreases further and lungs hyperinflate. So on percussion note, again, it may be resonant to diffusely hyperresonant. Okay, and you may appreciate wheezes, okay, and in between attacks and possibly crackles. So that's for the objective findings and clinical findings of the different diseases. So our next topic would be the neck.
Okay, good afternoon. So, try natin i-continue ha. So, that's actually the part 1 and part 2 of our chest and lung lecture. So, next week, we'll have the next part na ng lecture, no? Okay. So, clear naman ako ha. Sige, so for diffuse interstitial lung disease, so we are at the symptom ng dyspnea, di ba? Difficulty of breathing or shortness of breath. So in diffuse interstitial lung diseases, ang problem here would be the lung parenchyma itself, no? So there is abnormal and widespread infiltration of cells, fluid, and collagen into the interstitial space. So imagine yung lungs, malambot siya. Normally, malambot, para siyang sponge, na kapag nag-take in ng air, madali lang mag-expand. Okay. Imagine it filled with fluid and collagen. So, nagiging stiff. So, in short, usually nade-develop naman ito over time. So, matagal. Hence, yung timing ng dyspnea is progressive. Okay. So, factors that aggravate is exertion, whereas usually it is relieved by resting. So, common to among female, yung mga may diffuse interstitial lung diseases. And the most common associated symptom would be weakness and fatigue. So, nahirapan po akong huminga, doktora, tapos madaling mapagod. So, yon, you work up your patient na for diffuse interstitial lung disease. So, nakuha naman. Pneumonia is the most common respiratory disease infection of respiratory system, no? So, in pneumonia, there is inflammation of the lung parenchyma from the respiratory bronchioles to the alveoli. So, yung unit, so lung unit natin. Okay. And usually, this disease is of acute duration. So, acute illness. So, within 5 to 7 days, no, magkakasakit yung patient. Aside from difficulty of breathing, ano ang associated symptoms? So, patient will complain to you of pleuritic pain, masakit ang likod, cough, sputum, excuse me lang, cough, Okay, sputum production and fever. So that's the most common symptom. Okay, so since it's an infection, no? So nakita natin yung mga disease kanina na dinascuss natin, wala namang fever. No? Usually difficulty of breathing lang, chest pain, pleuritic pain. Since pneumonia is an infection, usually may febrile association. Next disease is spontaneous pneumothorax. So what is pneumothorax? There is leakage of air into the pleural space, no? Through blebs on the visceral pleura. So usually nagra-rupture tong mga blebs and bulla, resulting to partial or complete collapse of the affected lung. Okay, so whether right or left kasi. And usually, spontaneous, no? By the word spontaneous, sudden onset of difficulty of breathing in the setting of a previously healthy adult. So, a healthy adult, nakaupo lang, no? Nakikinig ng lecture, nakaupo ngayon sa desk, bigla na lang nahirapang huminga, then you can think of spontaneous pneumothorax as one differential. Okay? So, usually nako-confuse with pneumothorax and pulmonary embolism. So, ano ang differentiating factor ng acute pulmonary embolism? Pareho sila, sudden onset of dyspnea, but in acute PE, there is an occlusion of all or part of the pulmonary circulation, pulmonary artery. So usually it is occluded by a blood clot that originates from the deep veins of legs or pelvis. Okay, in the setting of, so kung kanina, pneumothorax, healthy, adult, for PE, merong setting. So kung postpartum, diba? Post-operative, matagal yung surgical operation, prolonged bed rest. So among chronically bedridden patient, yung mga na-stroke, patients who have congestive heart failure or chronic lung disease such as COPD, o kaya yung mga elderly patients na nagkaroon ng fracture of the hips or legs, and conditions of deep venous thrombosis. Okay, so these are the conditions that predispose a person to develop acute pulmonary embolism. Okay. So anxiety with hyperventilation. So this is actually common, no? During the pandemic, maraming mga, of course, anxious, no? Especially kapag buong pamilya mo na-infect, 'di ba, ng COVID. So in anxiety with hyperventilation, there is overbreathing, no, with resultant respiratory alkalosis. And usually, there is a fall in the partial pressure of carbon dioxide, so decreased carbon dioxide levels in the blood. It is often episodic, depending on the manifestation ng anxiety ng person na yon. Usually, it is aggravated by at rest. Okay? Pag naiisip niya yon, 'di ba? During anxious moments, but it is often relieved. Usually, you instruct your patient to breathe in and out of a brown paper, or a plastic bag para to help ma-cope up yung breathing. Okay. And commonly associated symptoms, aside from difficulty of breathing, parang nahihilo, di ba? There is numbness or tingling of the hands and feet, palpitations, and chest pain. So actually, has lahat ma-feel ng patients na anxious, no? Okay. So that's for difficulty of breathing. So you realize maraming possible diseases. But also, in the proper setting, no? Oo, hindi mo lahat gagawing differentials yan porket na ang complaint ng patient nahihirapang huminga. So I hope na nakuha niyo yung point ko. Next symptom is cough and hemoptysis. So we'll stop na pag natapos natin yung cough and hemoptysis. So for cough and hemoptysis, what are the acute conditions? So for acute conditions, so patients with laryngitis, di ba, may present with hoarseness and dry cough. With tracheobronchitis, of course, usually ang characteristic ng cough nila, burning with retrosternal discomfort, no? So, yung characteristic nasa sternal side. And with pneumonia, since it's an acute inflammation or infection, usually is associated with high-grade fever. For chronic inflammation, marami, no? So, one would be postnasal drip. So, kung merong condition ng allergic rhinitis, so this may present with chronic cough. And sometimes, kapag irritated na yung throat, nagkakaroon ng blood streak, sputum. Okay. Same with chronic bronchitis, but in chronic bronchitis, there is a smoking history. For bronchiectasis, same also. But with bronchiectasis, there are episodes of recurrent infection. So, with recurrent infection, nagkakaroon ng fibrosis sa lungs, no? Or bronchiectasis. So, it is manifested or usual symptoms na chronic cough, okay, with purulent sputum. So, next naman, you have pulmonary tuberculosis. Okay, so, it is actually a chronic infection, chronic lung infection. So, common associated symptoms aside from cough and hemoptysis is fever. So, our fever, night sweats, weight loss, fatigue, and anorexia. So, ito ang common na ina-associate with hemoptysis, no? Pulmonary tuberculosis. Bakit common? Kasi it's very common in the Philippines, no? So, lagi siyang ina-associate. But not all patients with hemoptysis may TB na agad. Okay. Lung abscess, when you say lung abscess is nana sa baga, no? So, it is associated with purulent sputum and that is foul smelling. So, mabaho. And then, asthma naman, we've discussed this earlier. So, in a setting of history of allergy, di ba? So, it may present with cough. Same with reflux. But with reflux, usually yan, early in the morning, doon mafe-feel ang cough and hoarseness. Also in the setting of heartburn and regurgitation. So lastly, lung cancer, no? Definitely, it may manifest with cough and hemoptysis. Heart failure, pulmonary emboli. So usually it presents with productive cough. So again, may setting sa PE. And for irritating particles, chemicals, or gases, usually there is a long latent period, no? So common yan kapag ang occupation mo ay lagi kang na-expose doon. So if you are a chemist, diba, and you don't wear proper PPE, if you are traffic enforcer, di ka nag-wear ng face mask, so talagang nalalanghap mo lahat ng usok. Okay, so there is a long latency period. So during the time na nag-work siya, bata pa siya, there are actually no symptoms. But usually pagtanda or in later years, nandun na yung mga symptoms. Okay. So, at this point, hanggang doon muna kasi too much information. But next meeting, I will go over the slides ng part 2 and then we will discuss naman the next topic. Okay, so far, do you have any question?
None so far po.
Okay, so I noticed 30 lang kayo, no? So I'm wondering bakit